Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is Greenleaf Season 2, Episode 1, and the name of this episode is A House Divided. Man, I am so glad that this show is back. I'm a huge fan of this show. I've followed it from Season 1, and I'm honored to review this show. Also, to let everyone know that I will try my best to refrain from using a lot of profanity when dealing with this show. But if I slip and say something, in the words of Steve Harvey, don't trip. He ain't through with me yet. Know this. Okay, now that I got that out, let's get started. This episode opens up where it left off in the season finale of Season 1. Uncle Mac is out of jail, and he actually has some cops with him, and they're going to confront Bishop Greenleaf. And Grace is completely blown away because she's like, how in the world this man get out of jail after he was, convicted of raping an underage girl? Well, they go inside. Bishop Greenleaf is already on the defense, like, what is he doing out of jail? What is going on? Like, what kind of mess are you trying to pull? And Bishop and Uncle Mac is just chilling. He's like, well, hey, he's like, hey, it's no mess, just the truth, just the facts. So they explained that Henry McCready, aka Daddy McCready, pretty much confessed about Bishop Greenleaf burning down the church back in 1983, and there was a man named Daryl James who died in that church fire. So pretty much they set the fire to the church for as a insurance scam or whatever. And immediately they started interrogating him. But Lady May steps in and is like, we're not going to say anything unless we have a lawyer. And they say, yeah, I advise you to get a lawyer, and also don't leave town. Next we see that Grace confronts Uncle Max like, I don't know what you did, but you're going back to jail. Like, I don't know what kind of crap you try to concoct to get out of jail, to try to throw this on Daddy, but you're going back to jail. And he's like, I'm not going back anywhere, sweetie, because little do you know, sweetheart, your daddy ain't the only person I got something on. I got something on everybody in this town to the point that I will burn Memphis down, and I can actually walk away with nothing on my back but hot wind. I'm like, wow, like, talk about evil. Like, this fool don't care who he take down because he got something on everybody. And he says, if you coming for me, I'll take everything down. So he's letting Grace know it's war. Next we see Mavis has fallen completely apart since she lost her bar. She's pretty much, become an alcoholic. And she's managing this dude named Alfonso, who's this young buck, who I think is like her boyfriend, but she's also managing him because he plays the blues, and also he's also addicted to OxyContin. He tries to offer her some, and she says, "Fool, I don't mess with that." But it's like she literally talks to him like he's her kid. I mean, when we first see him, we see him in his underwear with with the guitar, and next thing I'm like, okay, bro, where's your bowl of Captain Crunch? It's just like, he seems like he's like this big old man child that she literally is providing for, but she's supposed to be his manager to help his career. And we already see that there's something that ain't right with this whole setup. And mainly it's because that Mavis has completely fallen off and fallen apart. Next, we see that Grace is actually talking to the congregation. I think she's talking about the church anniversary. If I'm wrong, put it down in the comments and correct me. But then she's actually trying to get people to sow seeds to the church. But we come to find out that the church proceeds is 40% lower than usual, and that the deacons haven't even made pledges, for the anniversary. And we find this out from Lady May, who confronts Grace. They go back and forth, and Grace is like, look, a lot of the pledges ain't coming in because of Daddy's scandal. And the fact that Daddy hasn't admitted whether he did this or not, you know, a lot of people are no longer supporting the church. So, look, it's out of my hands. It's not your fault. And then Lady May's like, this is all your fault. You and your terrible pride is going to tear everything down. And I'm like, wow, already Lady May starting out on Grace. Because we all know that Lady May does not like Grace. You know, yeah, that's her daughter, but she doesn't like her. And everybody around knows it. So, and it's like every time she gets a chance, she is blaming Grace for all of this. When yet, it's really your chickens coming home to roost, but Lady May doesn't want to own that. So, we next see Lady May and Bishop. This is like, I think, the next day, and they're about to eat breakfast or whatever. But they're in the room, and Lady May is like really pissed because she now knows what the bishop has been keeping from her all this time, and that was what happened back in '83 with the burning of the church and Mr. Daryl James being killed in that church, who I think was a caregiver for Calvary at that time. And he was saying that he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to be there. I'm sorry about this, but he wasn't supposed to be there. And Lady May is just disgusted because she says she's getting nightmares thinking about Daryl James and his family and all of that, and she feels guilt. You know, the fact that this innocent man died at the hands of her husband. So next we see that she ends up walking off and ends up joining the family. She kind of gets herself together because she's completely shaken up by the situation. While they're at the dinner table, we see everybody's there. We see that Sophia is back. We also see that Carissa and Jacob is at the table. Grace is there as well, and everyone's sitting there eating, and they're reading the tabloids, or pretty much the Memphis News about the scandal involving Bishop Greenleaf. And one of the people that's actually behind putting out these stories is this reporter named Darius Nash, and I think we're going to meet him later. And I think that's the one that Rick Fox is playing. But not to jump too ahead, but you know but Lady May is completely disgusted with this guy because he keeps you know putting out filthy stories about us and the family. And next thing you know, we see that Bishop Greenleaf finally joins the family, and he starts talking about preaching again. And I'm like, Bishop Greenleaf, you are probably in one of the worst scandals ever. One, you already had a situation where you shot Uncle Mac. Now you're in a situation where you could be charged with arson and manslaughter, and you want to get in the pulpit and preach? Really, Bishop? But hey, it just goes to show you that Bishop is one of those relentless people. He will push through no matter what. Next, we actually have a scene with Charity, Carlton, and Carlton's husband. So we actually meet Carlton's husband, and he's played by no other than, I'm a huge fan of this guy, you know, best known for his work on Living Single as Cal Barker, T.C. Carson, and I also love them in Living Large as well. So it's great that him and Carlton are playing husbands, and it's great. And also, shout out to Parnell McConnell. He's actually a friend of mine. You know, on social media. I love this guy. He's very cool, very charismatic, and it's great to see him on Greenleaf and reprising his role as Carlton. And pretty much what's going on in this scene, Charity, Carlton, and Carlton's husband, they're planning on doing an album because they know that the church right now is suffering, and they're hoping that this album can actually help take the church out of the black and actually help put the church back on the map in a positive light. So they're pretty much working hard on getting an album done, and I think both Carlton and Charity are writing songs for it. So it was cool actually seeing them and seeing Carlton and his husband just being happy, you know, being their true selves, and it's refreshing to see. Next, after that, we see that Charity is actually singing this song for this guy named Jabari, who I think is a producer. But you can kind of get a sense that Jabari is kind of like feeling Charity, and I picked that up like he's really into her. And Charity's pretty much saying that, you know, she plays him a song that she wrote. He's intrigued by it, and he says that, you know, well, I'll give you a few songs, and, you know, maybe one of them will spark your interest. And he says that no need. I'm already inspired. I'm going to work on the project. So he's agreed to work on the album, and so now they got an album that's going to be put in the works. Next we see Kevin shows up, and Kevin already feels some type of way about Jabari. They introduce each other, but then Jabari's just standing there, and Kevin has to let him know, like, can I please, you know, talk to my wife in private? Can I please talk to my wife in private? And he eventually leaves. And then after that, we see that Grace is in her car, because after the bishop talked about he's going to be preaching again, Grace got up from the table and left. She's like, I'm not here for this crap. I gotta go. We see when she's in the car, there is nothing but flyers of Uncle Mac exposing him as a pedophile, a child molester, and all of that. And she literally puts these flyers on every car in the parking lot. So Grace is about taking Uncle Mac down for good. Next we see Kevin and Charity. He's trying to get her to go to this meeting that he's been going to, which is a meeting trying to help him to come to terms with his, pretty much because he's having issues with his sexuality and issues with himself, and he's going through therapy to try to figure out what he really wants. But he wants Charity to go to a meeting with him, but she's not with it. She's like, man, I'm not going to a meeting for you to find out whether you're straight or whether you're gay. But he's trying to explain to her that's not what it's about. It's really about, coming to terms with who you are as a person and what is right for you. Because he's like, right now, I don't know. I just know that I love you and I love the fact that we're about to be parents. I want that more than anything. Next thing you know, we see Carlton and his husband show up, and they pretty much start talking to Charity, and again, Kevin is left out of the picture, or pretty much is left behind. So it's like, here it is, he's forced to deal with the fact that, one, he's having issues with his wife, but then also for the fact that you have two black men in the church who are not ashamed of living their true selves. And that's something that's pretty much the battle that Kevin is faced with right now, where he's actually battling to figure out who he is as a man. Regardless of sexuality, he's trying to find out who he is as a man and what he wants as a man. Next, we actually see that Grace and Sophia have a conversation, and it's pretty much around the same lines about Bishop Greenleaf. Did he actually do it? And she said that, yeah, my whole thing is that I need an admittance. I mean, did you do it or didn't you? And then Sophia's like, well, maybe he's not talking about it because it's a part of his past, and he doesn't want to revisit the past. But then Grace was like, well, there's a difference between revisiting the past and never admitting to it. So it's like, which one is it? And next thing you know, they start talking about this groundbreaking event, which they're on their way to. Well, especially Sophia is with Zora, and she even asked the lady maid, "Grandma, are you going to groundbreaking?" She's like, "I'd rather eat glass." Like, that lady maid is a mess. So we pretty much go to the groundbreaking event that's being held by Triumph. They actually have gospel artists performing. They have this young guy who's performing. Oh yeah, if y'all know who that young guy was, put it down in the comments. But he was really good, and we could definitely tell Sophia had a crush on him, and both her and Zora were kind of like, yeah, because he was a guy that age, but he's a gospel artist, and he was spinning like Michael Jackson and was doing his thing. Next, after that, we see Jacob presides over the event. Man, Jacob has a lot more energy, tenacity, and like, you know, pizzazz that he never had when he was at Calvary. Now he's with Triumph. He's a totally different person. Even Carlton in the audience, like, dang, you know, I didn't realize Jacob had a lot of passion. And like Charity was like, yeah, you know, obviously being a Triumph has brought something out of him. Because even with me, even I'm shocked. Because normally, you know, we remember season 1, Jacob was really considered like the boring pastor because the ministry was not his passion. But now that he's with, I think, because he's with Triumph and with Bishop Skanks, he now has a purpose, and now we're starting to see his inner drive come to the forefront, and it's actually good to see because he's actually happy. And we also see a scene with Mrs. Skanks, the first lady, and Carissa, and she kind of throws shade like, well, it seems to me that that Bishop Skanks, that Pastor Skanks is rubbing off on Jacob because Jacob is a lot more lively than ever. And then, like, you know, Carissa kind of gives the hint, like, girl, bye. Like, he's been around ministry all his life, so he's always had it. It's just that now he has a platform. So that's all Bishop Skanks did. It's not like, oh, because he's with Bishop Skanks, now he's better. It's just that, no, Bishop Skanks gave him an opportunity for him to finally showcase what he really wants to do, whereas at Calvary, he never was given that opportunity. Carissa always knew that Jacob had it. It's just that he didn't have the opportunity to show it, but now he does. So she kind of Carissa gives a look like, Jezebel, you don't know what you're talking about. Fall back and have several seats. So afterwards, we see that Jacob brings on Bishop Skanks. He goes in and talks about, you know, he mentions his wife, he mentions his congregation, and he pretty much, you know, talks to the crowd. But then he actually says that, you know, this new building that we're about to build across from Calvary, you know, at first I was going to take it on, but I decided no, because God has already brought me a leader for this new church. And then he lets it be known that Jacob is going to be the head of the new Triumph location that's going to be right across the street from Calvary, and that he's going to maintain the other church. So already we see that Bishop Skanks is on to something, because now it's like you're pitting son against his father, because you got Calvary on one end, and then you got Triumph on the other one, and the son's on one end, the father's on the other. So now father and son are now against each other. And we can see in the audience, because everybody from Calvary was at this event. You know, we even saw that Bishop Greenleaf was in the audience. And when he heard that, he was pissed. Very pissed. So next we see that Uncle Mac sees that there's flyers all around about him being a child molester and a pedophile. He's mad as all hell. Next thing you know, he runs into Lady May, and he pretty much, like, confronts Lady May, like, look, you know, I'm sorry for the fact that your husband is now facing charges of arson and manslaughter, but hey, I gave him an opportunity to help me, and because he chose not to, I had to do what I had to do. And, you know, Lady May is just like, you know, like, you really disgust me. Just stay away from me. And he's like, look, you know, at the end of the day, I did what I had to do, but we're still family. And she's like, family? You got the nerve to talk about family? We will never be family again. And he was like, yeah, until you need me. So I'm like, oh. See, the thing about Uncle Mac, he knows what buttons to push, and he knows everybody's weaknesses, and he plays it to the full extent. Pretty much the devil in human form. Next, we have a scene with Mavis and Alfonso. They at a bar, you know. She's trying to get a drink, but the bartender told her that, look, my boss told me not to serve you any more beverages. But she decides, okay, well, we'll get it under him. Give us a double and give it to him. So he makes a drink for Alfonso, but she takes it and drinks it. And then we see that Alfonso gets a text, and she's asking, is it from Southern Artists, some label that's trying to pick him up, or a management team, whatever it may be. And she's kind of questioning him, like, why are you talking to Southern Artists? And he's denying it, that he's not talking to Southern Artists, he's not going with anybody else. She's like, and they just go back and forth because Mavis is his manager, and she's drunk, and she's pretty much saying that, no, you're not going to no Southern Artists, and I think you lying to me. I think you are talking to Southern Artists, and they just go back and forth, and we can definitely see from the bartender that, yeah, it was going down, and it ended up going down, because the bartender ends up calling Bishop Greenleaf, and he comes to the bar to see that Mavis literally got into a fight with Alfonso, and Alfonso, knocked her down with a peg or two, like physically. So now we're seeing domestic violence. And we next see that Bishop takes Mavis home, and he's trying to tell Mavis, like, look, I do not like the fact you're going down this road. Alcoholism almost killed you before, and now you're going back down the same pathway again. You did well for yourself for years, and now you're going backwards. And she's saying that, look, yeah, it's messed up what's going on, and as far as Alfonso, it's not him, it's me. I'm just been kind of out of it since I lost my club, and I'm just over it. And he pretty much says that, let me help you to your door. And she's like, oh no, you know what happened last time. I'm like, okay, so we're starting to get a sense that, yeah, something extra went down between Bishop Greenleaf and Mavis. Like, I think that they were lovers before he got with Lady May. So that's going to be interesting to find out. But yeah, she was like, well, yeah, but he's like, that was a long time ago. But she's like, you know what, I don't need you, I'm good, I'm fine. And she proceeds to go into the house, and while Alfonso's sleeping in the bed, she looks into, she pretty much pulled up the bottle of Oxycontin, and I think she ends up taking one. They didn't show her do it, but then again, it's like she now is being confronted whether she's gonna start popping pills or not. Next, we actually have a scene with Deacon Sykes and Grace, and she's meeting up with Deacon Sykes to ask, like, why is it that people haven't been been making their pledges as far as the deacons, and why are we like 40% in the hole? And Deacon Sykes begins to say, well, some of it may be due to the fact that that Bishop, is involved in all this scandal, what happened with Mac, and also what's going on, with the burning of the church, and, and Daryl James. But also, another reason is the fact that you got a member who's the choir director, meaning Carlton, and his husband pretty much, engaging and showing, affection in front of everybody, and is now trending on Facebook and Twitter and Messenger as if like it's okay. Maybe that's the reason why a lot of people aren't pledging, because people are not open to accept that their open display of homosexuality, where yet it says in the Bible that it's a sin. And I'm like, you know what? Here they go with that politics and all that mess. So now they're going to come for Carlton and his husband, and I'm not for that. And she's saying that, why are you guys so attacking them? It's like, and besides, they didn't even get married at Calvary. And she's like, yeah, they didn't get married at Calvary, but Charity sung at their wedding. So it's still being attached to the church. And because this is something that's, really not accepted by the black church, it's now causing a problem where people, as far as like the leaders, being the deacons and also members, are not supporting the church the way they should because of them. And I surely hope that Grace does not go down that road to try to, attack, Carlton and his husband for being themselves. Next, we actually have a scene with Grace and the bishop. They pretty much talk about about what happened back in 1983 with the burning of the church and Daryl James. He pretty much says that, look, we were down in a really bad place at that time. We thought that this was going to go off without a hitch, but we had no idea that Daryl James was in the building. He wasn't supposed to be there, and it's unfortunate that that happened. But then he also talks about that he wants to preach again, and then Grace is like, are you serious? You want to preach again with all of this on your head and with all of this being out here about what's going on? You really want to get in the pulpit and preach? And he says that, look, I don't preach perfection, I preach grace. And I will be a vessel for the Lord, and whatever he puts on my heart, that's what I'm going to talk about. Next, we actually see that Lady May meets up with Henry McCready, a.k.a. Daddy McCready. And we can definitely tell from this exchange that there's a very, disturbing and very uncomfortable type of relationship that the two of them have. Because here she is pleading to Daddy that, Daddy, please help us. Daddy, please don't do this. And he's like, I knew you would come. You was always so sweet to me. You was like my yellow flower, just so beautiful and so ripe. And I always knew that you would come because you've always been so sweet to me. And then the next thing you know, he leans in and gives her a kiss on the lips. And I'm like, see, Lady May and Daddy McCready, there was an inappropriate sexual relationship going on there. And maybe that's going to reveal itself later on, but from that exchange, that's what Lady May was. She was being sexually assaulted by her own father, which is probably why she was passive when Faith was being sexually molested by Uncle Mac. Next, we actually see that Lady May and Bishop, pretty much Bishop gets a call. We've come to find out that Daddy McCready has decided to drop the case. And now everything is back to normal, and it's now water under the bridge. And we can see Lady May is completely shaken up because he tells her that I promise you that I will never keep nothing from you, nor will I ever lie to you again. I'm going to be completely honest with you. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to be completely honest with her, but now she got a secret for you because she, I think, had sex with Henry McCready, and that's what made him drop their charges, and that's why he's now out in the clear. Talk about sick. Next, we actually see Mavis and Alonzo. She's making dinner, and Alonzo is still walking around with his guitar, and all of a sudden she's sitting down ready to eat, but he's just standing there. And she's like, "What's going on with you? You know what? You got a call from Southern Artists again? What's going on?" He's like, "No, I don't have a call from Southern Artists, but the bishop told me to stay away from you, and I think I'm going to listen to him." Next, we actually see that there's a baby homecoming. Finally, we actually find out that due to the fall, Charity lost one of the twins, but the other twin survived, and it's a boy. So they just had their first child. Everybody's there enjoying themselves. Next thing you know, Mavis comes in and she goes off. She is mad that she pretty much tells the bishop he needs to mind his damn business and that he needs to focus on his life and stay out of hers. And of course, Lady May got in the middle of it because she just stormed into the house. And she was like, first of all, Lady May, why don't you just be honest and tell the truth? As a matter of fact, won't you tell everything? Tell how you always turn an eye and you act like nothing's going on when you're right there and you see everything that's happening, but you play like you don't know nothing. Just like, for example, when Mom was beating me, daily, you turned your back and act like you didn't see nothing happening. But yet, here you are wearing nice dresses, nice clothes, all because of Daddy. So, Mavis knows that Daddy McCready and Lady May was fooling around. And she kind of threw that out there. And she said that, yeah, and also tell Grace that you knew that Uncle Mac was messing with Faith, and you again turned a blind eye and did nothing. Next thing you know, she ran off, and she pretty much says that I'm over it, I'm done, I'm going to St. Louis, I got to find Alonzo before he tries to hook up with somebody else. That's my ticket. Since I lost my club, that's the only thing I got going, and I'm done. And she ends up leaving. And Lady May and Grace have a moment because Grace is like shaken up that she ran off. And she's like, will she ever come back? And she says, she's family. She'll always come back. So yeah, she'll be back one day. But before that happened, Bishop Greenleaf and Jacob, they are at odds, you know, because he pretty much, you know, wanted to shake his father's hand and say hello. He completely ignored him. And then he was like, oh, well, so I guess you got a new position now, so I guess you might be moving out soon. And he's like, oh, yeah, we're about to move out. He's like, okay, good riddance. And I'm like, wow. And then you got Lady May trying to be in the middle of them, but now it's father against son. And this is going to play out, and I can't wait to see how this goes down. Because, you know, now he's in a position where he now has power, but now Bishop is pissed that he feels like his son is now against him. Next, we actually see, it's now Sunday service, we actually see Carlton embracing his husband, and all the deacons and people are kind of turning up their heads. I'm like, see, y'all just mad because y'all ain't got no man. Trifling heifers. Hating on him because he can embrace his man in public, but you mad because you ain't got no man to embrace. Checkmate. Next, after that, we see that the bishop goes to preach, and we can see that his MS is getting a lot worse. Then the way it ended was Bishop Skinks comes to visit Bishop in his office. They go back and forth, and he's pretty much saying that I'm going to make sure that I root you out of here and that I make sure that you are done. And when I get done with you, the only thing that's going to come out of Calvary is smoke. I'm going to make sure that I destroy you. And then eventually the bishop's like, why do you hate me so much? And he's like, you don't know? You killed my daddy. And he's like, oh, Daryl James was your father? And he's like, yeah. So yeah, as I said, I'm about to take you down. So be prepared. The judgment's coming. So that's what I have for you guys. But this was a good episode because it was crazy. But yes, I will be reviewing season 2. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I put out a video. Like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with you next week for the next episode of Greenleaf. So until then, everybody, take care.